The early morning light filtered through the bathroom blinds as Lily stared at her reflection. She barely recognized herself anymore. The woman in the mirror looked tired, with dark circles under once bright eyes. Her fingertips gently touched a fresh bruise forming on her cheekbone, wincing at the tenderness. Last night's argument with Robert had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. It won't happen again, he had promised, just like all the times before. 10 years of marriage had taught Lily one thing: it always happened again. The shouting, the accusations, the breaking of things, and now the physical pain. Lily listened carefully to the sounds of Robert getting ready for his business trip. The familiar routine of shower, coffee, suitcase wheels on hardwood floors. When the front door finally closed, she allowed herself to breathe. 3 days. She had 3 days of freedom to make her escape. Her hands trembled as she pulled out the small suitcase she'd hidden at the back of their closet weeks ago. Into it went only essentials, clothes for a week, toiletries, and the few pieces of jewelry that had been gifts from her grandmother. Things Robert couldn't claim were his. From beneath the loose floorboard under their bed, she retrieved the emergency cash she'd been quietly saving, $20 here, $50 there, whenever she could manage without him noticing. Lily glanced at the framed wedding photo on the dresser. They had looked so happy then, so full of promise. When had it all changed? Or had the signs been there from the beginning, masked by love and hope? The house phone rang, startling her. She let it go to voicemail, hearing Robert's voice reminding her to water his prized orchids while he was gone. A task he'd hold over her head upon return, finding any imperfection to criticize. Not this time. Her cell phone buzzed with a text from her older sister June in Portland. Did you book the flight? June was the only one who knew. The only one Lily had finally confided in after years of making excuses for Robert's behavior. He's under pressure at work, or we're just going through a rough patch. June had listened, not judging, but firmly telling her that what she was experiencing wasn't love, it was control. Flight booked for tonight, Lily typed back, arriving at 9:30 p.m. She'd used cash to purchase a prepaid card for the plane ticket, knowing Robert monitored their joint credit card statements. Every step of her escape had been carefully planned over weeks of quiet research on library computers during lunch breaks from her part-time bookstore job. A job Robert had reluctantly allowed because the owner was an elderly woman he deemed no threat to their marriage. As the afternoon wore on, Lily moved through the house gathering the pieces of herself. Her favorite book, the small wooden box containing her mother's handwritten recipes, the flash drive with family photos. Everything else could be replaced. In the bathroom, she slowly twisted her wedding ring off her finger. For a moment, she considered leaving it on the counter, a final message. Instead, she placed it in the back of the medicine cabinet. She didn't want to provoke his anger when he returned to an empty house. With one final look around the place that had been both home and prison, Lily picked up her suitcase and purse. She called a taxi instead of her usual rideshare app, another untraceable step. As the cab pulled away from the curb, Lily didn't look back at the house. Instead, she looked ahead at the road, feeling a mixture of terror and something she hadn't felt in years: hope. She was leaving everything she knew, stepping into uncertainty, but for the first time in a decade, she was choosing her own path. What she didn't know was that fate had other plans, beginning with boarding the wrong plane. The airport buzzed with activity as Lily wheeled her small suitcase through the crowded terminal. She'd never traveled alone during her marriage. Robert had always insisted on handling everything, from booking tickets to choosing their seats. Now, faced with departure boards and gate numbers, she felt both overwhelmed and strangely exhilarated. Her phone chimed with another text from June. Just cleaned the spare room. Can't wait to see you tonight. You're doing the right thing, sis. Lily smiled faintly, tucking the phone back into her pocket. The right thing felt terrifying. She'd lived by Robert's rules for so long that the simple act of deciding which coffee shop to stop at in the terminal felt like a small rebellion. She chose a busy cafe near her gate and ordered a vanilla latte, something Robert always criticized as too sweet and childish. As she sipped it, she watched families and business travelers hurry past. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they were going, while she felt adrift in a sea of uncertainty. The boarding announcement for her flight crackled over the loudspeaker, but the static made it difficult to hear clearly. Lily gathered her belongings and hurried toward what she thought was her gate. Her mind was racing with worries. Would Robert somehow track her down? Would June's spare room feel like another cage? Could she really start over at 35 with nothing but a suitcase and $2,000 in cash? At the gate, the attendant barely glanced at her boarding pass before waving her through. Lily found her window seat and tucked her carry-on beneath the seat in front of her. Only after fastening her seatbelt did she notice the flight information card in the seat pocket. Portland wasn't listed as the destination. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she pulled out her boarding pass again. The flight number matched what was on her ticket, but the destination read Seattle, not Portland. How had she made such a critical error? The gates must have been close, the numbers similar, and in her anxious state, she hadn't paid close enough attention. Lily's hands trembled as panic set in. She should get up, tell the flight attendant, get off the plane, but the cabin door had already closed. The captain announced their imminent departure, and the safety demonstration began. "Excuse me, is everything all right?" The gentle voice came from beside her. Lily turned to find a man with kind eyes watching her with concern. He had silver streaks in his dark hair and wore a simple blue sweater that somehow made him look both professional and approachable. I'm on the wrong flight," she whispered, horrified to feel tears welling in her eyes. "I'm supposed to be going to Portland, not Seattle." The man nodded sympathetically. "That's quite a mix-up. But you know, Seattle's only a few hours from Portland by bus or train. It's not the end of the world." His calm reaction helped Lily breathe a little easier. "I suppose not," she said, though her mind was already calculating the cost of additional travel and how it would eat into her limited funds. "I'm Tom, by the way," he said, offering his hand. "Lily," she replied automatically, then immediately regretted giving her real name. What if Robert somehow traced her? But that was ridiculous. How would a stranger on a plane connect to Robert? The aircraft began to move, taxiing toward the runway. Lily gripped the armrests, another wave of panic washing over her. This mistake could ruin everything. June would be waiting at Portland Airport, growing increasingly worried when Lily didn't appear. Robert might call June looking for her if he suspected something. "First time flying?" Tom asked. "No," Lily replied. "Just first time in a long while." "And first time alone?" Tom nodded as though this explained everything. "Well, if it helps, I live in Seattle. I know the city well. I'd be happy to point you toward the most reliable transport to Portland once we land." The offer seemed genuine, without any hint of ulterior motive. Still, Lily had learned to be cautious of unexpected kindness. It usually came with strings attached. "Thank you," she said simply, not committing either way. As the plane accelerated down the runway, Lily closed her eyes. The past was behind her now, quite literally falling away as the wheels left the ground. Despite the mistake, despite the fear, she was still moving forward. Away from Robert. Away from the life that had slowly crushed her spirit. She just hadn't expected her path to freedom would include a detour or the mysterious stranger now sitting beside her. The flight to Seattle hit turbulence about 30 minutes after takeoff. The plane dropped suddenly, causing Lily to gasp and grip the armrests so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her wedding ring was gone, but the pale band of skin where it had been for 10 years seemed to mock her attempt at freedom. "Not a fan of turbulence?" Tom asked gently, noticing her distress. Lily shook her head, trying to control her breathing. "I don't like feeling out of control," she admitted. "Understandable," Tom said with a nod. "Most people don't. I find it helps to focus on something else. Tell me, what takes you to Portland? Or what was supposed to take you there?" The question was innocent enough, but Lily hesitated. How much could she safely share with a stranger? Then again, wasn't that the beauty of talking to someone who didn't know you? No history, no judgment. "I'm visiting my sister," she said finally. It wasn't a lie, just not the whole truth. Tom smiled. "That sounds nice. Close family?" "We were," once Lily replied, watching the clouds outside her window. Life got in the way. The plane shuddered again, and Lily's breath caught. Without thinking, she reached for the armrest between them and accidentally grabbed Tom's hand instead. She pulled back instantly, embarrassed. "Sorry," she mumbled. "No need to apologize," Tom said easily. "Fear responses are natural. When I was a kid, I was terrified of thunder." My grandmother taught me to count the seconds between lightning and thunder to know how far away the storm was. It helped make the scary thing measurable, knowable. His voice was calm and steady, like a lighthouse beam cutting through fog. As he spoke, Lily found herself actually listening, focusing on his words instead of the movements of the plane. "What do you do, Tom?" she asked, genuinely curious about this man who seemed so at ease with himself and the world. "I'm a psychologist," he replied. "I work with trauma survivors." Lily tensed slightly. Could he see through her? Read the signs of what she'd been through. "That must be difficult work," she said carefully. Tom nodded. "It can be, but it's also incredibly rewarding. People are remarkably resilient. They survive things you wouldn't believe possible and somehow find their way back to joy." His words hung in the air between them. Was that possible for her? A way back to joy after years of walking on eggshells, of making herself smaller to avoid Robert's anger. The flight attendant came by with the beverage cart, momentarily pausing their conversation. Lily asked for water while Tom ordered a ginger ale. "So, what do you do, Lily?" Tom asked after the attendant moved on. Another seemingly simple question with a complicated answer. Her part-time job at the bookstore was the only work Robert had allowed, and even that had come with endless questions about male customers and coworkers. "I work at a bookstore," she said, "but I used to be a photographer, before I got married." The words slipped out before she could stop them. She hadn't talked about her photography in years. Robert had called it a hobby, not a real career, and eventually she'd stopped bringing it up. "What kind of photography?" Tom seemed genuinely interested. "Landscapes, mostly. I loved capturing places that felt untouched by people, wild spaces." She surprised herself by continuing. "I had a small exhibition once at a local gallery, nothing fancy." "That's impressive," Tom said. "Do you still take photos?" Lily shook her head. "I haven't in years. My camera." She trailed off, remembering how Robert had accidentally knocked her expensive camera off the table during an argument, then refused to replace it, saying they couldn't afford such luxuries. Something in Tom's expression suggested he understood more than she was saying, but he didn't press. Instead, he said, "Seattle has some beautiful landscapes. Olympic National Park isn't far. The mountains, the rainforest, the coast, all in one place. Perfect for photography." For a moment, Lily allowed herself to imagine it, standing on a rugged coastline, camera in hand, completely free. No one watching over her shoulder, no one to tell her she was wasting time. "Maybe someday," she said softly. As the plane began its descent into Seattle, Lily realized that the last hour had passed without her noticing the turbulence or worrying about what awaited her. For a brief time, she had simply been herself, not Robert's wife, not a woman running away, just Lily, talking about things that mattered to her with someone who seemed to actually listen. It was such a small thing, and yet it felt enormous. The Seattle airport bustled with travelers as Lily followed the crowd toward baggage claim. Reality was setting in again. She needed to contact June, find transportation to Portland, and stretch her limited budget even further. The momentary comfort she'd felt on the plane was fading, replaced by the cold grip of uncertainty. She pulled out her phone and saw 3 missed calls from June and several anxious texts. "I should have been in Portland by now," Lily said as Tom walked beside her. "My sister must be worried sick. Why don't you call her while I check the bus and train schedules to Portland?" Tom offered, keeping a respectful distance as they navigated the terminal. Lily nodded gratefully and stepped aside to make the call. June answered immediately. "Lily, where are you?" "I've been at the Portland airport for an hour." "I'm so sorry," Lily said, her voice tight. "I got on the wrong plane. I'm in Seattle." "Seattle? How did that happen? Are you okay?" The genuine concern in her sister's voice made Lily's eyes sting with tears. "I'm okay. Just tired and a bit overwhelmed. I'm trying to figure out how to get to Portland tonight." There was a pause before June spoke again. "Look, it's already late. The last bus probably left hours ago. Maybe you should find a hotel for tonight and come tomorrow." Lily bit her lip, thinking about the cost. Maybe. Did you really do it?" "Leave him?" June asked softly. "Yes," Lily whispered. "There's no going back now." She could hear the relief in her sister's voice. I'm proud of you, Earl. So proud. We'll figure this out. Call me when you know your plan. After hanging up, Lily found Tom waiting nearby, respectfully out of earshot. Bad news, he said. The last bus to Portland left an hour ago. There's a train tomorrow morning at 7:30. Lily's shoulders slumped. She'd have to find a hotel, which would cut into her escape money. As if reading her thoughts, Tom spoke again. I know this might sound strange, but I have a guest room. You're welcome to stay the night and head to Portland in the morning. Lily stiffened immediately. Stay with the man she just met. That seemed dangerous, foolish even. Tom seemed to sense her hesitation. I completely understand if that doesn't feel safe, he said. The Holiday Inn near the station is reasonable, and they have a shuttle from the airport. His easy acceptance of her caution, without offense or pressure, was strangely reassuring. Why would you offer to help a stranger? Lily asked, studying his face. Tom's smile was tired but genuine. In my line of work, I've seen how a small kindness at the right moment can change someone's path. Besides, I have the space and you need a place to stay. It's simple, really. Lily considered her options. A hotel would cost at least $100 she couldn't spare. And something about Tom felt safe. Maybe it was his profession or how he'd given her space to talk, or not talk, on the plane. Or maybe it was just that after years of walking on eggshells around Robert's unpredictable moods, she recognized the absence of those warning signs in Tom. If it's really no trouble, she said finally, just for tonight. Tom's home was a modest craftsman-style house on a quiet street overlooking Lake Washington. Inside, warm wood floors and walls lined with bookshelves created a space that felt lived in and peaceful. No stark minimalism like Robert had insisted upon, where any object out of place became evidence of her failings. The guest room is down the hall, Tom said, showing her a simple but comfortable room with a twin bed and a small desk by the window. Bathroom's right across. The door locks from the inside, he added, pointing to the solid deadbolt. That small detail, acknowledging her need for security without making it awkward, confirmed Lily's instinct that she'd made the right choice. Are you hungry? Tom asked. I was going to make some pasta. Lily realized she hadn't eaten since the small bag of pretzels on the plane. I could help, she offered. In the kitchen, they fell into an easy rhythm. Tom chopped vegetables while Lily stirred the sauce, the simple domesticity of the task both familiar and strange. There was no tension in the air, no fear that she might use the wrong pot or slice the onions too thick. I haven't thanked you properly, Lily said as they sat down to eat. Most people wouldn't go out of their way like this. Tom shrugged. Maybe the universe knew you needed a detour. Lily smiled despite herself. The universe has a strange sense of humor then. For the first time since leaving her house that morning, Lily felt the knot in her chest begin to loosen just slightly. She wasn't in Portland as planned, but she was away from Robert, sitting in a warm kitchen with decent food and no fear. For tonight, that was enough. Morning light filtered through unfamiliar curtains as Lily blinked awake. For a moment, panic gripped her. Where was she? Then the events of yesterday came flooding back. The escape. The wrong plane. Tom and his guest room. She sat up and looked around. The small room felt peaceful in the early dawn light. On the bedside table, Tom had left a folded note next to a towel and a new toothbrush still in its package. Help yourself to breakfast. Train schedules on the kitchen table. No rush. Tom. The simple kindness of it, offering help without demands, felt almost foreign after so many years with Robert. Lily showered quickly, the hot water washing away some of the tension she'd been carrying. When she finally made her way to the kitchen, she found Tom already up, reading a newspaper at the table. Sleep okay? He asked, looking up with a smile. Better than I have in years, Lily admitted, surprised by her own honesty. Over breakfast, real food, not the plain toast Robert insisted was best for her figure. Tom mentioned a friend of his named Diane who ran a women's shelter in Seattle. She's always looking for administrative help, Tom said casually, not looking directly at Lily. The pay isn't much, but they also offer housing assistance for staff. Lily paused with her coffee cup halfway to her lips. Are you suggesting I stay in Seattle? Tom shrugged. I'm suggesting you have options. Portland isn't your only path. The thought had never occurred to her. In her mind, the plan had always been simple: escape to June's, figure out the rest later. But June had 3 kids and a tiny house. Lily had always known it would be a temporary solution at best. "I don't even know Seattle," she said weakly. "You didn't know where you'd end up when you got on that plane yesterday," Tom pointed out. "Sometimes the best things in life come from unexpected detours." Lily stared out the window at the shimmer of Lake Washington in the distance. Seattle. A city where nobody knew her, where Robert wouldn't think to look. Would you mind if I called your friend? Just to talk?" Tom's face brightened. Of course not. Diane turned out to be a brisk, practical woman in her 50s who arranged to meet Lily for coffee that same morning. She asked direct but kind questions and explained how the shelter worked. By the end of their meeting, Lily had a job offer, part-time administrative work with the possibility of more hours as she settled in. "We have a small apartment above the office that's vacant," Diane explained. "It's nothing fancy, but it's private and safe. Electronic entry system, security cameras on the building. It's yours if you want it, at a reduced rent that comes out of your paycheck." Lily felt dizzy with the speed of it all. "I need to think," she said honestly. Diane nodded. "Of course, but do it quickly. Life has a way of moving forward whether we're ready or not." Back at Tom's house, Lily called June. The conversation was difficult. June had been counting on having her sister nearby, on helping her rebuild. But as Lily explained the opportunity in Seattle, June's disappointment gradually gave way to understanding. "Maybe it's better this way," June admitted. "Robert knows where I live, if he comes looking." "Exactly," Lily said, relief in her voice that her sister understood. "I can visit often. It's not that far." "Promise me you'll be careful," June said. "This Tom person, he seems too good to be true." "He's just being kind," Lily said, though she understood her sister's concern. "Besides, I'll be living at the shelter's building, not with him." After hanging up, Lily found Tom in the living room, carefully staying out of earshot during her call. "I think I'm going to stay," she said, the words feeling strange in her mouth. "In Seattle." Tom smiled, but didn't look surprised. "I think that's wise. New city, fresh start." "I need to get my stuff from your guest room and head to the shelter," Lily said, feeling suddenly awkward. How did you thank someone who had changed the course of your life in less than 24 hours? "No rush," Tom said. "Diane mentioned you can move in tomorrow. Stay another night if you want." As they sat drinking tea that evening, Lily found herself telling Tom more about her marriage, small details at first, then larger truths. He listened without judgment, occasionally offering insights from his professional experience. "What you're describing is a common pattern," he said. "Isolation, control, making you doubt yourself. It's never your fault, Lily." For the first time, Lily began to see her marriage through different eyes, not as her failure, but as something that had been done to her, methodically and purposefully. The realization was both painful and freeing. That night, she slept without dreaming of Robert for the first time in years. 3 months passed like a dream. Lily moved into the small apartment above the women's shelter, painted the walls a soft blue, and slowly began to build a life that felt like her own. Her job at the shelter involved answering phones, managing paperwork, and occasionally sitting with women who had just arrived, shell-shocked and afraid, just as she had been. On her days off, Lily explored Seattle with a second-hand camera Tom had given her. It was just gathering dust, he'd said when she tried to refuse the gift. Besides, the world needs your perspective. They had fallen into an easy friendship, meeting once a week for coffee at a small cafe halfway between his office and the shelter. Lily was careful to keep a certain distance. She wasn't ready for anything more than friendship, and Tom seemed to understand this without her having to explain. Her phone calls with June had become less frequent but more relaxed. Robert had indeed come looking for Lily at her sister's house, but June had truthfully said she didn't know where Lily was. Seattle remained her secret, her sanctuary. Until the day everything changed. Lily was leaving work, rushing slightly because rain threatened, when she spotted a familiar figure leaning against her car. The world narrowed to a pinpoint, sound fading as blood rushed in her ears. Robert. He looked exactly the same, handsome in that careful way that had first attracted her, his smile practiced and perfect. But now she could see what she hadn't before. the coldness behind his eyes, the tension in his jaw. "There you are," he said, as if they'd been separated for hours rather than months. "You've had your little adventure. Time to come home." Lily's hands trembled as she clutched her purse. Inside was the small canister of pepper spray Diane had insisted all shelter staff carry. "How did you find me?" Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. Robert's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Credit report. You got a job, Lily. Your name showed up in the system. Did you really think I wouldn't look everywhere for my wife?" "Ex-wife," Lily corrected him, finding courage in the word. "The papers were delivered to you 2 months ago." His expression darkened. "Papers I never signed. Papers that mean nothing." He took a step toward her, and Lily stepped back, maintaining distance. "You've embarrassed me," Robert continued, his voice taking on the reasonable tone she remembered from countless arguments. "People are talking, wondering what I did to make my wife run away. Do you have any idea what that's doing to my reputation, to my business?" Once those words would have crushed her under a wave of guilt. Now they simply confirmed what she'd slowly come to understand during her weekly therapy sessions. Robert had never loved her. He had only loved controlling her. "That's not my problem anymore," Lily said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. Robert's mask slipped then, anger flashing across his face. "You're coming home with me today. I've already cleared out your desk at that pathetic shelter. Your boss didn't even put up a fight." Lily's blood ran cold. Had he hurt Diane? The thought gave her unexpected strength. "No, Robert, I'm not going anywhere with you." He lunged toward her then, grabbing her arm with bruising force. "Stop being stupid. You're nothing without me. Nothing. Let her go." The voice came from behind them, calm and firm. Tom stood a few feet away, his expression serious but controlled. He had come to pick Lily up for their weekly coffee, a routine Robert couldn't have known about. Robert's grip tightened. "Who the hell are you?" "A friend," Tom said simply, "and you're hurting her." Robert laughed, an ugly sound. "This is between me and my wife." "Ex-wife," Lily corrected again, finding her voice. "And you need to leave. Now." "Or what?" Robert sneered. "Or I'll call the police," came another voice. Diane stood in the doorway of the shelter, phone in hand. "And show them the security footage we're recording right now of you assaulting a woman in our parking lot." Robert's gaze darted between them, calculating. For a horrible moment, Lily thought he might escalate, might try to drag her away anyway. But then his hand dropped from her arm. "This isn't over," he said, his voice low and threatening. "You think you've got it all figured out, playing house in this dump. But you'll come crawling back when the money runs out. You always do." "No," Lily said, meeting his gaze directly. "I won't." Something in her tone must have reached him, because uncertainty flickered across his face. He looked at her as if seeing her for the first time, not as his possession, but as a stranger. A woman he didn't recognize and couldn't control. Without another word, Robert turned and walked to his car. Lily watched him drive away, her heart hammering in her chest, but her mind strangely calm. Tom approached cautiously. "Are you okay?" Lily rubbed her arm where Robert's fingers had dug in. There would be bruises tomorrow, but they would fade, just like the invisible ones he'd left on her heart over the years. "I will be," she said, and for the first time she truly believed it. 1 year had passed since Lily boarded the wrong plane. 1 year since a mistake had changed everything. She sat on the small balcony of her new apartment, sipping coffee and watching the Sunday morning fog lift off Puget Sound. The view wasn't spectacular, just a slice of water visible between 2 buildings, but it was hers. Everything in this space was hers, chosen with care and intention. The restraining order against Robert had been granted without much difficulty. The security footage from the shelter parking lot had been convincing, and 3 other women had come forward with stories about his controlling behavior. Diane had connected Lily with a lawyer who specialized in domestic abuse cases, and the divorce was finally official. Her phone buzzed with a text from June. "Happy 1-year freedom anniversary. So proud of you, sis. The kids miss their aunt. Visit soon." Lily smiled and typed back a promise to visit next month. She'd made the trip to Portland several times over the past year, each visit easier than the last. The kids had adapted quickly to the new Aunt Lily, the one who laughed more easily, and brought them disposable cameras so they could take pictures together. Photography had become more than just a rekindled hobby. After 6 months at the shelter, Lily had been offered a job at a small gallery downtown. The owner, an older woman named Beth, had been impressed by Lily's eye for detail and knowledge of composition. The job paid better than the shelter position, though Lily still volunteered there on weekends. Her first small exhibition was scheduled for next month, just a corner of the gallery, featuring her photographs of unexpected beauty, urban landscapes transformed by light and shadow. It wasn't the nature photography she'd once loved, but something new, something uniquely hers. The knock at her door came right on time. Tom was nothing if not punctual. "Ready for a hike?" he asked when she opened the door. His smile was the same one that had first put her at ease on that turbulent flight. Kind, patient, without demands. Their friendship had evolved slowly over the past year. Weekly coffee had become weekend hikes, movie nights, and long conversations about everything and nothing. Lily had been clear from the beginning. She needed time, space, friendship without expectations. Tom had respected those boundaries without question. But lately, something had shifted. Lily found herself looking forward to seeing him in a different way. Their hands had touched while reaching for popcorn during a movie last week, and neither had pulled away. Last night, she dreamt of him, nothing dramatic, just the two of them walking along the shore, talking as the sun set. "I brought you something," Tom said as they walked toward his car. He handed her a small wrapped package. "What's this for?" Lily asked, surprised. 1 year, he said simply. "It's a big milestone." Inside the package was a leather-bound journal, the cover embossed with a compass design. "For mapping your journey forward," Tom explained. "The past year was about surviving. Maybe the next one can be about thriving." Lily ran her fingers over the soft leather. "Thank you. This means a lot." As they drove toward the trailhead, Lily thought about the woman she had been a year ago, frightened, uncertain, barely able to make decisions for herself. That woman could never have imagined sitting here now, heading toward the mountains with a camera in her bag and plans for the future taking shape in her mind. The trail was busy with weekend hikers, families with dogs and children racing ahead on the path. Tom walked beside her, matching his pace to hers, not rushing as they climbed steadily upward. They had fallen into an easy rhythm together, comfortable silences broken by observations about the scenery or discussions about books they'd read. 1 year had passed since Lily boarded the wrong plane. 1 year since a mistake had changed everything. She sat on the small balcony of her new apartment, sipping coffee and watching the Sunday morning fog lift off Puget Sound. The view wasn't spectacular, just a slice of water visible between two buildings, but it was hers. Everything in this space was hers, chosen with care and intention. The restraining order against Robert had been granted without much difficulty. The security footage from the shelter parking lot had been convincing, and 3 other women had come forward with stories about his controlling behavior. Diane had connected Lily with a lawyer who specialized in domestic abuse cases, and the divorce was finally official. Her phone buzzed with a text from June. "Happy 1-year freedom anniversary. So proud of you, sis. The kids miss their aunt. Visit soon." Lily smiled and typed back a promise to visit next month. She'd made the trip to Portland several times over the past year, each visit easier than the last. The kids had adapted quickly to the new Aunt Lily, the one who laughed more easily, and brought them disposable cameras so they could take pictures together. Photography had become more than just a rekindled hobby. After 6 months at the shelter, Lily had been offered a job at a small gallery downtown. The owner, an older woman named Beth, had been impressed by Lily's eye for detail and knowledge of composition. The job paid better than the shelter position, though Lily still volunteered there on weekends. Her first small exhibition was scheduled for next month, just a corner of the gallery, featuring her photographs of unexpected beauty, urban landscapes transformed by light and shadow. It wasn't the nature photography she'd once loved, but something new, something uniquely hers. The knock at her door came right on time. Tom was nothing if not punctual. "Ready for a hike?" he asked when she opened the door. His smile was the same one that had first put her at ease on that turbulent flight. Kind, patient, without demands. Their friendship had evolved slowly over the past year. Weekly coffee had become weekend hikes, movie nights, and long conversations about everything and nothing. Lily had been clear from the beginning. She needed time, space, friendship without expectations. Tom had respected those boundaries without question. But lately, something had shifted. Lily found herself looking forward to seeing him in a different way. Their hands had touched while reaching for popcorn during a movie last week, and neither had pulled away. Last night, she dreamt of him. Nothing dramatic, just the two of them walking along the shore, talking as the sun set. "I brought you something," Tom said as they walked toward his car. He handed her a small wrapped package. "What's this for?" Lily asked, surprised. 1 year, he said simply. "It's a big milestone." Inside the package was a leather-bound journal, the cover embossed with a compass design. "For mapping your journey forward," Tom explained. "The past year was about surviving. Maybe the next one can be about thriving." Lily ran her fingers over the soft leather. "Thank you. This means a lot." As they drove toward the trailhead, Lily thought about the woman she had been a year ago, frightened, uncertain, barely able to make decisions for herself. That woman could never have imagined sitting here now, heading toward the mountains with a camera in her bag and plans for the future taking shape in her mind. The trail was busy with weekend hikers, families with dogs and children racing ahead on the path. Tom walked beside her, matching his pace to hers, not rushing as they climbed steadily upward. They had fallen into an easy rhythm together, comfortable silences broken by observations about the scenery or discussions about books they'd read. At the viewpoint halfway up, they stopped to rest. The city spread out below them, buildings catching the midday sun, the water beyond a brilliant blue. "Do you ever think about how strange it is?" Lily asked, looking out at the landscape. "If I hadn't gotten on the wrong plane that day, if you hadn't been sitting in that seat." Tom smiled. "I think about it all the time. Some people call it chance. I like to think it was something more." "Like fate?" Lily raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "Like recognition," Tom said. "Like two people who were ready to meet each other, even if they didn't know it yet." Lily considered this as she adjusted her camera settings to capture the view. She had spent so much time thinking about what she had left behind, the house, the marriage, the life she had thought was her only option. She had spent much less time considering what she had found instead: strength, purpose, possibility. "I'm not the same person who got on that plane," she said quietly. Tom nodded. "None of us stay the same. That's the point of living, isn't it? To grow, to change, to become more ourselves." "And who am I becoming?" Lily wondered aloud. "That," Tom said, gesturing toward the path ahead that disappeared into the trees, "is the adventure. And I'd be honored to walk beside you while you figure it out." Lily looked at him then, really looked at him, and saw not a rescuer or a savior, but a companion. An equal. Maybe someday something more. "I'd like that," she said, and meant it. They continued up the trail together, two people choosing their path, one step at a time.